Hello and welcome back to the Intel Brief. Today is Monday, 16 March. Back in our usual setup with our usual stuff, so I'm very excited to be here. I'm your host Daniel, and today we're going to talk about Trump has threatened NATO and China over their reluctance to secure the shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. The Iranian women's soccer captain has dropped her Australian asylum bid, and Madagascar's anti-corruption chief has been appointed as the new Prime Minister. So firstly, US President Donald Trump has called for a number of countries to secure navigation through the strategic Strait of Hormuz, which has been blocked by Iran since joint US-Israeli attacks began and has largely gone unanswered. On Sunday, the US president threatened consequences should support not materialize. He told the Financial Times in a brief interview that the NATO military alliance would face a very bad future should allies not be willing to help Washington reopen the strategic waterway. The US president also threatened to delay his summit with President Xi Jinping, scheduled for later this month, as he pressures Beijing to help secure the traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. He told the newspaper that it's only appropriate that people who benefit from the strait should help make sure nothing bad happens there. The Strait of Hormuz lies between the Persian Gulf and the Arabian Sea and is critical for about a fifth of the world's oil supply. So I have a list. So currently, France has refused to join. Australia has declined to participate. Japan has refused. The United Kingdom said they're reluctant. South Korea said they're reviewing the proposal. And China has rejected any military involvement. So what? I mean, this is just comical from my point of view. I think it's highly likely that the US intelligence organization, community, that's probably the right word, put in their assessment somewhere that this is a likely outcome of this conflict. It's been discussed quite openly since at least the early 2000s that Iran had the ability to do this, and it was part of their strategic plan to defend their country. It's also one of the reasons why back in the day the US could never win a tabletop conflict with Iran without the use of nuclear weapons. So I think it's highly unlikely that this wasn't at least discussed. But as the saying goes, operational success or intelligence failure. So, Intel was going to just chew up the brunt of the bad press following this conflict. And this is also likely a fallout from his aggressive foreign policies. Trump has not made it any secret that he is pretty critical of NATO and other foreign allies, and he wants them to do more. And he had a very America first policy, talking about withdrawing troops from NATO, withdrawing support from NATO, but to now turn around and ask NATO to support in defending extremely difficult to defend waterway against a foreign adversary that the US has started a conflict with, seems pretty ridiculous. This isn't what NATO was made for. It wasn't what it was designed for. And also, NATO countries don't really benefit from oil out of the Strait of Hormuz. The main beneficiaries of that strait is the Asian countries. That's where most of the oil goes. So for Europe to now come in and Trump want Europe to come in and now pick up the bill for his conflict is pretty crazy. And to me, it's just baffling. I don't really understand how he thinks this is an appropriate way to conduct himself in the international community, and also it's just mental. And next, Iranian media on Sunday said that the captain of the women's soccer team has rescinded her asylum application in Australia and will return to her home country. She'll head from Australia to Malaysia and then fly back to Iran, Tehran officials told a local news agency. They also said that she's also the top female goal scorer of all time and would now return to a warm embrace of her homeland. Activists in Australia have voiced their concern about the women and their families facing political repercussions due to seeking asylum amid the ongoing war. This now rolls the total down to 5 women who are seeking asylum in Australia, with that having been 7 and 2 now rescinding their applications. So what? This kind of comes on the back of unconfirmed reports that her mother was threatened by the IRGC. There was talk in a bunch of social media channels and on Twitter that The IRGC had gone round to her mother's house and threatened her if her daughter did not rescind her asylum application. And, it's likely that this is going to be the fallout for all of the people who have applied for asylum. She was the most prominent, so was probably the first to receive this treatment. And it's currently unclear whether Australia is providing support to try and evacuate these people's families safely to try and avoid any kind of repercussions. It's unclear if they've gone into hiding or what's happening. But yeah, if they are just conducting themselves in their normal manner, it's quite possible that they will face repercussions from the Iranian security services. It's likely the captain will still be punished significantly, right? She'll probably have to be a political spokesperson for some time, and it'll be unlikely she'll be able to leave the country again anytime soon. And lastly, Madagascar's anti-corruption chief has been appointed as the country's new prime minister. It was announced on Sunday. It comes after the military strongman sacked the last prime minister and his cabinet on Tuesday, which we already spoke about. He said in a statement that the Malagalese nation needs a bold decision and that they are at a turning point. The country needs a person of integrity, a person of principle, incorruptible, and who cannot be bought with money. So what? I think it's a pretty positive move, anti-corruption chief. He was well renowned for not being corruptible. So, that's something a country needs to build strong foundations. Corruption destroys societies. It destroys countries from the base up. If people don't trust their government, then why do they work for them? Why do they try and build things within the country? They generally just leave, or they just buy into the corrupt system and become corrupt themselves. And it just leads to nations kind of failing, as we see globally, where corruption is high. Generally, the states are not that strong and not that well functioning. But this is going to take significant time, right? He's going to have to build this from the ground up. It's going to take a lot of time, but it will be worth it. And I hope it does work out well for Madagascar. But yeah, I think this is a good move, should he remain to be the man that he was before this appointment. But yeah, that's been your Intel Brief. I've been your host, Daniel, and I'll see you again tomorrow. See you.